There's no perfect performance. And that is such a good mindset to have, because as soon as you let go of the expectation of performance and accepting that you're going to mess up, something's going to mess up, the mic's going to go out at some point. It might not be tonight, but it's going to be sometime. Someone's going to miss a count. You're going to forget a lyric. It's going to happen. So as soon as you let go of that intense need for perfection, for the perfect performance, a lot of pressure comes off, because it stops becoming about putting on this perfect product. And it's just, I'm going up there to sing and play music and have fun.
Let's talk about stage performance. So just getting on stage, everything that entails, from getting prepped for the stage, for dealing with stage fright, to I'm trying to think the order of all this, to like when you're on stage, what makes for a great performance, and even what makes for kind of special moments for the audience and things you can do there. And if we get to it, we'll talk about what to do after.
Yeah,
because there's definitely things to do after you get off stage, from taking care of your own voice to being able to engage your audience even after the show. Let's start there. Let's actually start at the very beginning. What do you guys think? Well, what have you done? I know you both have a lot of performance experience too. What have you done to prep for getting on stage? And what comes up? What types of things are you concerned about? Just kind of talk about what happens before the stage.
Depending on how far before, I would say it's very natural to just be nervous. I got to say that, if you're nervous, don't take that as a sign that you're not ready. If you've been practicing, if you've been rehearsing diligently, then trust that process. So when I do feel those nerves, those feelings of oh my God, I don't know, I try to stick to a particular routine, something that I've already created. For me, it'll be, and it's silly, but I'll go for a walk, I'll do some deep breathing, I'll drink some tea. I'll try to keep any and all things that I do, stuff that is just kind of, for lack of a better word, stereotypically calming things. But the whole point of it is just don't let what's going to happen later affect how you feel in the moment. I know that's kind of a weird way to put it, but
it's getting out of your head.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't have to be worried about the performance that's in, because I'm talking hours before. Don't worry about the performance at 7 if it's only 3. You've got plenty of time.
Except for eating, maybe.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Band meals take at least 2 hours.
Yeah, man. And
I'm talking about even how long before the show you eat, because it can affect your voice, and what you eat affects your voice.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What size audiences have you sang in front of? From your average to even the bigger ones, what have you done?
On average, probably around 50 or so people, which is very small, and I understand that. But the largest show I've done, oh man, well, I was technically on America's Got Talent. They didn't use our clip, but my high school band was on America's Got Talent, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So we got to run out, and they didn't like us, not because we were bad, but because we were a marching band. But I don't even know how many people are in that crowd.
That's in the thousands usually. So
it was intense. It was intense. But yeah, I would say on average anywhere between 50 to 200 people usually.
Okay.
For the shows that I do. Yeah.
And I can't say, well, Drew, what about you? What size shows have you done?
It definitely, there's been shows where we've played in front of 2 people. You're touring, you're figuring out the place you're at, and it's there's a comedian before you, and you're like, why is there a comedian before a metal band? And then your show doesn't even happen. But in terms of the normal shows that I was doing, it's a lot of this place called Herman's Hideaway, which you probably definitely know.
I've played there. Yeah.
Yep. Herman's Hideaway, sometimes Moe's in Denver, but those were usually 200, 300 people at those venues, if it's full from bar to bar. And then the biggest show I've done was 1,200 in front of, it was at the Buffalo Rose in Golden, Colorado.
Awesome.
We opened for Winger and Warrant there. That was pretty fun. And we even, side note, we did well, right? But people have different perspectives as you get into these crowds of, doesn't matter whether it's 50 to 1,000 people. We got booed by one little group of 2 people, and they're play some covers. And it's no, you're never going to meet expectation of everyone in the crowd. So it's just internalizing that and being like, we're doing it for the band. Like we're doing it for the reason we're here, which is for the fun of it. And embracing that and like a persona behind all of that, that really helps with that mentality you take to the stage and how comfortable you'll be, because you'll never be completely comfortable.
Yeah. And people are really there just to have fun anyway when it comes down to it. And sadly, some people think it's fun to heckle the band. I was at a show for a band, this is so many years ago, I don't even know if they're still around, but it's a band called Scarlet. They were on tour. And the room was full of maybe 600 people. It could have been more, but regardless, middle of the set, this guy in the middle of the crowd starts calling out, "You stole my toothbrush!" He said it enough times, the singer finally stopped and said, "What are you saying, man?" And he had a conversation with the guy in the middle of the concert. It's like, I stole your toothbrush? What?
Play with it. Play off of it.
Man.
Make it funny for everyone.
Yeah, he made it part of the show. So that's a memory for sure. But that's getting into the dynamics of the show itself. I know for myself, see, if you want to talk averages, the average show for a local band is going to be 50 people. That's actually not bad. But a lot of the shows we played weren't typical shows. So we were doing 500 usually. So between 300 to 500 normally.
Nice.
And these were because we made them events. We really made it into something more than just another local band. But going back well before that, like I was in another band playing keyboards that we were playing to that was our regular. And it was all the time. And we got to play all the way up to 16,000. We were opening for DC Talk, Adrenaline. We were opening for a lot of big Christian bands at the time. And what I learned in that is once you get over a certain size, there's no difference.
Oh,
like, played to 1,000 people. It's like, okay. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. It's fun. It's, the crowd's starting to sound like noise. We played to 4,000 people. It's like, okay, this is just static. That's all it sounded like. And we had 3 feet of the front of the stage because there were curtains behind us. And so we were across this 30-foot stage. It's a band just all lined up in a row. It was funny.
That's crazy.
And the other one was the 16,000 one. That was just amazing. I don't know how to describe it any other way, but it really wasn't much different than playing in front of 4,000, except we had a bigger stage.
I don't think people realize, especially if you don't have any experience on the stage, but things like monitors, stage lights, like these are all things that help to put you in your bubble that you barely even know the crowd is there. Like you're going to hear 4,000 people, obviously. Like they're going to be there.
Dude, what's up, Houston?
Yeah, exactly.
But you guys cut out for a sec. What?
But with stage lighting is literally there to light you and to keep the crowd blank, basically. It's so hard unless I'm really focusing. It was always so difficult for me to see anybody in a crowd. The sucky thing is when you can see them, it does throw me off. Because where I'm like, oh God, I see all your faces. I don't like this.
We did a show called the Illuminate Masquerade, and just happened that Drew, you know the place. It's the Marquee.
Yep.
So it just happened that Oktoberfest was happening the same night, and there was a stage right outside the door. So we got lucky that people showed up. So a couple hundred people came, which is actually decently full. But even then, this small stage that's in the corner of the venue, the way it's lit, I could only see like a few people deep before the room was black.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of zeroed in on the people that were really into it. That didn't work well. And we'll get into that too, because I zeroed in on this one girl and she's like, oh man, I didn't mean to do that. And you're right, the 4,000 people, you barely see anybody there, but the 16,000 was during the day.
Oh, okay.
So we saw everybody. It's like, holy crap, that's a lot of people.
That's true. I forget that outdoor venues exist and day
and to be fair, especially if the guys that I played that with are listening, there weren't 16,000 people all at once right there. But this show was sold out. So we played between 10 to 16,000 people that were actually hearing us and listening to us. not off
Right.
doing something.
Right.
Getting concessions, waiting for the main band.
Right.
Dude, there are definitely those people. And I think that's what you just described, Drew. Is they're just waiting for the main band they came to see, and they really don't care about you. So those people definitely come too.
I think one of the first like concert going experiences that I had was in high school, and my friend who had been to just crap tons of concerts, and she told me like, oh yeah, no one cares about any of the other bands except for the headliners. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, they're all gonna try and get you to mosh. They're all gonna try to get you to do all sorts of crazy stuff, and you're gonna get like 2 people listening to you. The rest of them are gonna be standing in the back, just kind of nodding their heads, like, yeah, it's good, great, like.
And other things happen too. That's so our show, Rock Circus Masquerade for the Silent Still, we filled the place, 500 people. From the stage, you wouldn't know it. You would not know it. We didn't know that until we saw the numbers afterwards. Or we took the picture, the group picture. They turned on the house lights, and it's like, holy crap, there are people here. That was an amazing picture. Yeah. But before that, since we had a cameraman up front, nobody came near the stage. So all we saw was there might be people in the back of the room. And then there's a cameraman and nobody else on the floor. So that's what we saw when we were performing. Like, we know people are there, but can't see any of them.
Oh, but I think that helps so much for me. Is like, if I don't think there's anyone there, I'm happy. I'm good. I used to take my glasses off for performances or for like juries and stuff like that for music school, because it's so helpful to just, and any glasses owner is going to know this. Like, when you take your glasses off, you are in your own world. You don't have anybody.
You don't have definition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
I wear glasses too, man. So it's
going back to like pre-concert kind of rituals and stuff like that, or just like pre-concert like mindsets. Drew, going back to something you said before, which is like, there's no perfect performance.
Yes.
And that is such a good mindset to have, because as soon as you let go of the expectation of performance and accepting that, like, you're going to mess up. You're going to mess up. Something's going to mess up. The mic's going to go out at some point. It might not be tonight, but it's going to be sometime. Someone's going to miss a count. You're going to forget a lyric. It's going to happen. So as soon as you let go of that intense need for perfection, for the perfect performance, a lot of pressure comes off, because it stops becoming about putting on this perfect product. And it's just, I'm going up there to sing and play music and have fun.
Well, again, like I was saying earlier in response to Drew too, it's people there just have fun. I tell all my students 85%. That's what you're going for. Get out of your head, because you're not even going to be 90%.
Yeah.
85% is good enough. And usually when you think you did terrible, everybody says you did fantastic because it sounded emotional. And when you think you did awesome, nobody says anything. But and things happen, things come up. Yeah. We opened for Whiteheart at a water park, because water parks are huge in Texas. And as soon as we were done with our set, a huge storm came in, tornadoes and lightning, and it cleared out the water park. So we just sat with the headliner, who didn't get to play. We sat with them for a couple hours and waited out the storm. Made the best of it. It's still a cool story, cool memories that happened within that. Like, the tarp over the drum kit funneling water into a $3,000 guitar.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Oh, God.
Our first big show is the Silent Still. There was 2 feet of snow on the ground, man. There was a blizzard outside. It was freezing.
Oh, my Lord.
Massive amount of snow.
Yeah.
And we still got 300 people in the place, 500-person venue. It's like, this is awesome. Okay, we did awesome getting these people in. We opened the show. I stepped on my guitarist's guitar cord, unplugged her guitar halfway through a song. So she played a half a song with no guitar. She didn't even know it. We had a guest singer come on for one song for Passenger, Deftones. He did more Chino's part. And I was standing on his mic cable the whole time, so he couldn't move. I had no idea. Things happen. Thankfully, okay, our Rock Circus Masquerade show, we got deathly close to completely destroying the stage. Twice. One, we had this gigantic banner in the back And we had scaffolding that we used to put that up with our lights and everything. So we programmed all our lights. It was a big deal. So it's 17 by 20 banner. We had it probably a little bit higher than that up. Mm-hmm. And then we put another banner made out of burlap on our scaffolding so we could just leave it on stage. Our acrobats come out through part of it with fire. Like, oh crap, we didn't even ask any permission to do that. And like our stage manager was like ready to run on stage at any moment if our banner caught fire. Like, holy crap, man, this is not a good idea. And another point, we have this song that ends with an instrumental and it's kind of energetic. So I jump around for a while and then I just fall down. And I've always done that. Bass player didn't see me until he was like probably 6 inches away from me. He was backing up playing and then noticed that I was there. That would have been really bad because if he had tripped on me, he would have fell into the banner and pulled the whole thing down. Thankfully, it didn't happen. But you know what? We would have kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, man. Even and like it's worth noting that like sometimes it's not even going to be anything to do with the music or the performance. Sometimes something is just going to happen. I was doing it's not rock related, so I apologize for the departure here, but I was doing Beauty and the Beast in San Diego and we're all getting ready to come out. It's like near the end of the show. They just did the beautiful like Beauty and the Beast dance, the ballroom dance or whatever. And everyone else is backstage. And then all of a sudden we just hear the music shut off. And the leads came in the back and they're like, so paramedics are here. We're pretty sure someone is having like someone passed. I think, someone passed out. That's what it was. Someone passed out. Paramedics are here helping them. We had to go out there and obviously it's Beauty and the Beast. So like, we want to make sure like no kids are, getting traumatized with that. So we had characters going out in the audience and kind of calming people down. But like, and the person was fine. The person ended up being okay. It was a friend of one of the cast members. And so we found out that everything was good there. Thank God.
I've seen that same thing happen at rock shows.
Yeah, man. And it's like, you don't like the best thing you can do is like, just keep going. Just help. Not like keep going while the paramedics are there, but I mean like help where you can. Keep, crowd control, keep everything just smooth, help, allow the paramedics to do what they're doing or whatever situation is going on. And once things are resolved, if you're going to keep playing, go back out and give a kick-ass show, and that's what we did is once everything was settled and we knew the person was okay and in good hands, we said, all right, we're going to finish the show. And that's exactly what we did.
And just to clarify for the listeners, I've done musicals, I've done leads in musicals, I've done plenty of rock shows, I've done acoustic rock shows, I've done all over the map. Mm-hmm. And it's no different.
Yeah.
As a performer, it's not any different. The audience is there for a slightly different reason. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's more spectator, sometimes it's more participation.
Yeah.
But as far as performance, it doesn't matter. A performance is a performance. If you just dial it in, people notice. Mm-hmm. So, yeah,
100%.
Even if you're singing this pre-written part in a musical, you're still having to deliver it.
Yeah, that's where a lot of my stage presence comes from. A lot of my stage craft comes from is not just from musicals, but just like working with covers, doing covers and stuff like that. Working with pre-written music because. And I think with that comes a whole other beast, which we'll get into later, of like interpreting other people's songs, interpreting other people's messages, and how to make it your own to show to the audience, stuff like that.
Yeah, let's definitely include that if we remember.
Anyway, again, I apologize if I'm rambling. So
that I know for me before the show, even though I've done it for 30 years, I still get nervous. I start coughing. Well, I have asthma, so that definitely plays into it. But when my nerves get caught up just a little bit, or if I talk for too long, like our podcast, like people may notice that I do this a lot. I cough a lot. So I have asthma. I talk a lot. It acts up. If I have pre-show jitters of any sort, and that's just like, I'm getting ready to go on stage. Okay, here we go. That's enough for me to start coughing. Like, dang it, man. That's not good. Mm-hmm. So I have a ritual I go through. Yeah. And for different types of shows, I would do different things. But it all came down to, okay, how do I get myself in the headspace to where I'm all about just losing myself in the music, for lack of a better term, to romancing the music. I am truly in it. How do I get in that headspace? So I would do a steam inhaler for 10 minutes. I'd do my warm-ups, and then I would kind of just chill.
Yeah.
You said, Matt, you would go for a walk and stuff. I'd usually be stuck in the green room, something like that, or a hotel room, and just chill out. Be like, make it normal.
Mm-hmm.
I prepped. I'm ready. I just need for it to be just another normal part of my day now. So let me get back to that state of where the day's just moving on. It's not like I'm having to go to either a huge dopamine hit in anticipation of going on stage, or my nerves go through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another part of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were talking about with the making mistakes thing, they're definitely going to happen. That 85% thing, I even tell that to my bands, my students that are in cover bands, that in the end, even if you make a mistake, if you can laugh it off, you can keep the energy up, that's what people remember.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to have fun. When Trent Reznor and 9 Inch Nails forgot the words of Terrible Lie 20 years later, in the middle of the concert singing Terrible Lie, one of his biggest hits ever from his first album, totally forgot the words. He just started laughing. The whole audience laughed with him, and that was a memory. And everybody thought it was awesome.
Yeah. And no one's walking away being like, oh my God. I mean, maybe someone is, who cares about that person, but it's like very few people are walking away. Yeah.
When people walk away like that, is when the band responds negatively.
That makes
sense. People do too.
Yes.
And I've seen that. One guy was so frustrated when he got on stage. They weren't doing so well. They're a great band. Their music's awesome. I wish I remember their name. But I heard the guy before he went on, and he was on the phone with his manager just cussing him out because the venue basically screwed him over. That happens a lot, by the way. It's kind of an expectation in the music industry.
Yeah.
But so he got on stage with that anger, and it showed. And even 2 songs in, he started cussing out the audience for not doing what he wanted them to do. Dude, you can't do that.
No.
Half the audience left.
Yeah.
It's about the audience.
And that's what I remember. Is like, dude, that was not good.
No.
Like, he didn't care about us at all. He was mad at everybody. And he apparently apologized later on in the show. But if you make a mistake and it destroys you, you just destroyed the whole audience connection with you too.
Because to make mistakes is human. Like, we all make mistakes. And so, I mean, I think this translates in our teaching a lot as well, where like, I'll get really nervous if I don't have the answer right away, if someone asks me a question. But I find that I build more connection with the student when I just admit, like, I don't know the answer to that question. Let me go find out. Similar to being on stage. If I screw up, and you're saying with Trent Reznor, man, like, oh yeah, I've screwed up. I think that's hilarious. Like, oh, who would have thought? Okay, let's keep going.
Real quick, I want to let you know about our Rock Singing Success community. If you want a place to discuss this topic further, or other topics, a place where you can improve your voice and your music career with courses and other resources, and even have a community of like-minded singers in rock and metal that are on the same path, those that support each other, encourage each other along the way, then join us at school.com/rocksingingsuccess. And that's skool.com/rocksingingsuccess. Dude, I have an 11/8 part in this one song I wrote that it's kind of this droning loop. What was interesting was you could play like 4/4 on top of it. So the bass player was doing 4/4. The drums are doing 11/8. And it was just a groove. We weren't trying to be complicated. It's just like, this is a cool groove. And then
breaks my brain.
Our very, very first show ever, we get to the end of the verse, and the drummer keeps playing the same loop because he had to count the whole time. So we're like, hold on, this sounds awful now. We're sorry, guys. Let's rewind it and do it again. Yep. And we just started the song over. Nobody cared. They all had fun. I saw the same thing with Matisse Yahoo, who is, when he was more Orthodox Jew, and he was doing, I guess maybe he still does. I haven't kept up with him. But what is it, reggae? Like doing more reggae style stuff? Seeing him in the middle of a set, somebody messes up so bad they can't recover. So they had that built in. where he goes, rewind! And you hear this rewind sound. Like they actually played a sample or rewind. So they were prepared.
Hell yeah.
And then they started over this different part of the song. Just kept going.
Oh man.
And that's a huge part of it.
Yeah,
the
man.
preparation of it all.
So it doesn't have to be perfect. And yes, in the prep, you've got to know that. You're not trying to prep yourself to be on point. Like you're not trying to be super perfect with it. You're trying to prep yourself to be in the music, to be connected with the audience, to be okay being vulnerable in front of people. That's the hard part. And I think before we get into the main performance part of this, that's something to really address there going into stage fright. How do you address that stage fright? Because if you can get over just the nerves being racked in general and because you're anticipating something, what about the connection with the music and the audience? That scares some people half to death. That Barbara Streisand, a hugely famous singer, never got over. She just did it anyway. So how do you prepare for that? What are strategies you guys have seen or used yourselves?
The main one that I use kind of comes as part of the ritual. And the ritual is something that you kind of do almost every day. Like when you practice like you're playing in front of the audience. Like I was very fortunate with the place I lived at in Colorado, where the jam room had this giant, like 7x7 foot mirror. And so I would just play in front of the mirror and just be like, if I'm watching myself, what would I like to see? And I'd be like, okay, I'll do a little jig. And then you start getting into like, what is the music about? How do I operate for the music? What the band brand is? Like, are you I was like a hair metal band that was a little tongue in cheek. So like you do a little jig, you do a little dance, you play with the music in a way that might be a little cringe, but also heavy at points. And so you embrace that character. And when you practice that character with the band and by yourself, you get up on the stage and you directly have this this idea of when you're like chewing gum and you study something and then you chew your gum during the test, like it activates those parts of your brain that allow you to go into that mode. And then you're locking into that, not looking at the audience. I'll look at like the top of people's heads and just like you look at scalps. You don't look at eyes and then look at the back of the room. Like you're playing in front of 15 or 16,000 people, like just right above the last person's head. And then then people get that idea of feels like they're playing to like a bigger crowd, and you can engage that expectation and that thought by just looking like there's more people in the crowd.
Sting did that, by the way. Sting still does that. He looks just above the crowd the whole time. I've heard him talk about it. You reminded me of things with the rituals. You said that the character, like becoming that character. There's a book called Alter Ego by Todd Herman, where he goes into this. And I'm going to admit I haven't read the book, but I've seen him talk about it plenty. And this one story stuck with me. He's like, I wear glasses. Growing up, I thought that people who wear glasses are smart. I don't need to wear glasses, but when I work, I put on glasses because I feel smart. Like, oh, that's interesting. Said I was telling that, and I'm telling it from his perspective. He was telling that story to a room of people. Like he does a lot of speaking engagements. And afterwards, this little black lady came up to him, like really old lady, was like, oh, that story really struck me. I really like that because my Martin used to do that. It's like her, okay, so her, her widow husband was, or widower, whatever. Her late husband did that. Made him feel smart. He didn't feel confident. He put on glasses and speak in front of a lot of people, apparently, because his, after she left, Todd Herman's assistant came up and said, do you know who that was? No, it was Martin Luther King Jr.'s widow. Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Martin Luther King Jr. did not need glasses, but he put them on to feel confident when he spoke in front of people.
Wow.
Did that with another student of mine who went between musicals, which is more focused on delivering the message of the words, to doing rock concerts, which is much more focused on delivering the message of the music, the energy of the music itself.
Yes.
And he had a hard time making that adaptation because he wrote musicals all the time, and he's singing in his cover band as well. So he would put on a ring a stone ring, so it's kind of funny. It's rock. But said he never wears jewelry. So when he puts that on, it's very noticeable to him.
Mm-hmm.
And just that one little thing was enough. I used to do that when I led worship. I would take my shoes off.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it took. But suddenly I was in a different headspace. And for me, that was kind of like, well, let me treat this more as a sacred thing. So I'm going to take my shoes off. Dude, little things. Becoming another character. Clark Kent's alter ego. Mm-hmm. Put on glasses. Now you're a different person. Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone listening, of course, glasses wearers are smarter. I just want that to be clear. That's just fact. As a glasses, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, I'm so sorry, but no, I do the opposite.
No, I agree with you, man. I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Drew. Drew, we'll talk a little slower so you can follow.
Dropped.
But no, man, and all kidding aside, I actually do the opposite. I'm not opposite, like I take my glasses, but like I will take my glasses off. Again, talk about earlier, like I'll take them off to feel like I'm in a different world. But when I'm doing shows, when I'm doing musicals, if the character that I'm playing tends to be more like just have that, I don't want to say cocky, but like more confident. That's a positive word for it. A confident kind of air around them. Or if I just need to feel more confident, not saying that if you wear glasses, you can't be confident. You absolutely can be. Glasses are awesome. But there is just some psychology behind taking your glasses off and feeling a little bit more confident. I used to wear contacts. I wore contacts all throughout high school for that very reason, because I liked how I felt when I didn't have my glasses on. And so
that's
I do
another
that
Superman moment. He became Superman as soon as he took off his glasses. Mm-hmm. It just reminded me of that extra confidence of changing the character.
Yeah.
You become a different person. I did the same thing as well, man, with I have to remind myself, Draven Gray is not my real name. Not my birth name anyway. When I first came up with that, it was a character. I was like, who do I want to be on stage? Mm-hmm. So I drew it, and I was an art major, so like I love drawing and stuff too. But I drew this character. Who do I want Draven Gray to be? Mm-hmm. And drew it myself on stage with the mic and all this stuff. And it made me think about, who is it I want to become as a person? It was me, not just on stage even. Who is this that I can look up to them and step into that role when I'm on stage? So I defined who Draven Gray was and then became that person. Mm-hmm. And that started with being on stage. That totally started where I have a space that was kind of a safe place for me to be someone that I don't feel confident enough to actually be. I can do that on stage. So that's what I did. And I know you've heard me talk about it before with college and stuff, having that grandmotherly like mentor figure who kind of put me in that other headspace of, this isn't about you, it's about the audience. This is about connecting with people and taking them into it with you. And so I had that as well. Say, okay, when I get up on stage, I'm going to completely get lost in the energy of the music and invite everyone else to go with me. So I still had that connection to them. It wasn't like I was turning my back and doing my own thing, which I've seen some bands do, by the way. Norma Jean used to do that. They would all turn their backs to the audience, like, what's going on? So that connection was there, to the point that, and I suggest everyone do this, videotaping your concerts, videotaping yourself. Like Drew, you were saying, singing in front of the mirror. This is a very similar thing. Videotaping it, analyzing it. I was in that headspace, looking at it through that lens of, how am I connecting with the audience? Like, I'm really into the music. How am I connecting with the audience? Yeah. I was holding my microphone like this. Mm-hmm. I was really into it, but I kept pulling in away from the audience. I realized, oh, that doesn't work for me. That looks the opposite of what I'm trying to do. Like, even on camera, I'm like, oh, just totally disconnected there from whoever's watching.
Dude. Mm-hmm.
So even that, I had to experiment with how to open up, how to get big, how to make motions that invite people in. So I went complete opposite, and it actually worked. Mm-hmm. So now I make huge motions, and I leave my mic on a stand. In fact, the mic's behind me. It's stuck to the stand most of the time. So my mic stand became a prop.
Yeah.
It became something I could use and throw around and have fun with it and make that an extension of that energy as well.
You've got to overcorrect sometimes. And like, if you, like you said, like you were kind of pulled in. So now you make these bigger motions. Overcorrecting helps immensely because you don't realize how big this feels until you get away from it, especially if you're trying to open up more.
You don't realize just how small it looks to somebody at the back of the room.
Mm-hmm. When I first saw one of my first performances when I was leading worship or helping to lead worship. So one of the first solos I had with them, and I got to see video. And my teacher made a part of my lesson, and she was like, "Okay, so one of the first things I noticed is you don't stand still." I'm like, "Well, no, like you want to move around." She's like, "No, when you're trying to stand still, you're bobbing back and forth on your feet," and I didn't think I was that bad. In my head, I'm like, well, I'm probably just trying to keep the music. I watched that performance, and like anyone listening won't be able to see, but just imagine a ship on the rockiest water. I was holding the microphone, just like, yes, let's move back and forth. And it was so embarrassing. I hated it. And
that's better than curled in and hunched over like I was doing. So.
I don't think so, man. But hey, I guess we all have our icks because, man, when I'm teaching beginner performers, that is hunching in is one thing I notice, but that wibble wobble, I call it a wibble wobble. That's what I notice. And then I tell them, I'm like, okay, so we just need to practice not moving while we sing. And it's so hard. Not just for beginners, for everybody, just stand still. Practice doing that. If you notice that you have a really hard time getting your footing, practice being able to sing and express with just your voice and your face.
When I'm coaching bands, dude, I tell them if they have time, cover bands don't have this much time to do this, but like go through 3 sets. As a cover band's doing 3 hours already, but it's like if you have time, go through 3 sets. Go through one casually, just have fun with it. Whatever. Treat it like it's live, so you're still keeping the energy up, and because whatever energy you practice with will show on stage too. So have fun though. And then do one that's perfect. Nobody moves. You just play and sing perfectly. You make no mistakes. And if you make a mistake, you do it over. Like that's not what's going to happen live. But
right.
But getting out of your head to play live it comes from the preparation of building the skill level that you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yep.
So do it where you're not moving. You're doing everything as perfect as possible, and then do another one where you play exactly like it's live. If you make a mistake, you keep going. In fact, I encourage them, make mistakes. Like make the other people make mistakes. Go turn off the guitar amp. Go move the hi-hat cymbal over a few feet. Things are going to happen like that. Scoop the bass drum out a little bit. It's going to piss the drummer off, but if they're not on a good drum rug, that's going to happen at a show.
Unplug the microphone. Do something.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I like that.
Suddenly unplug a monitor. See how well that goes. Suddenly they can't hear themselves or anybody else anymore.
Yep.
That happens.
Yeah. It does.
There's something to be said for standing still, but on stage when you're in front of an audience, I don't know, man. I wouldn't do that.
Oh, no.
Try to stand still in front of an audience.
No, God, no. The standing still is preparation work. That's like, you're getting, if you notice that you have a hard time finding your ground, practice at standing still. But definitely that's not how you stand in front of an audience. So once you're comfortable being able to perform without the need to move around, I do this a lot with like music. Yeah, I do this a lot with my musicals, with like any of my students that are preparing for musicals, because like expression for some reason is just like when we're trying to be like soft and tender, we always like extend a hand out and say, it's like, music is the gift I give. And we all do the same crap. We all do. So learning how to have the same emotion without the addition of hand motions with moving is a really important skill. But once you can do that, or once you're comfortable doing that, then practice moving around as long as it looks natural and it looks like you're having fun.
Which is why you need a mirror or a videotape.
Yes,
Not
100%.
tape.
Yeah.
We don't tape anymore. But yeah,
it's the best medium.
Yeah, take video and examine what you're doing.
100%.
And a cool thing you can do that, especially nowadays, is taking anything like, if you want to start somewhere, Facebook Live is good because no one's really there. And it gets you this idea of, oh, there could be people watching, but you also have record to be like, what do we look like? Put the camera as though it's like the one audience member that showed up to your show, and you get into the camera and you like point at it and be like, check this shit out. And then it's the, you know, the guitar solo right after it. And the guitar player comes up to the camera, like all these things where you like, you can set yourself up for these practice situations, like you said, Draven, where you get into it, you have fun in the first set, address your issues in the second one. And then what I would do is break it up into like show practices, where it's like, we just go into it and we play it. We don't stop. We just go through the entire set like once or twice. And then whatever mistakes happen, you note it, you write it down, fix what you can before the show. Or if it's the day of the show, you just go like, that's what it is. And you go in. But having like that camera, the live stream, pretending even if you don't have any of that, that the wall is the audience and you can see through it and beyond to like 60,000 people.
So here's something I do. That's amazing advice. It's really good advice. And this is stuff, I know we kind of bridge into the live thing already, but this is all the stuff you're preparing yourself for ahead of time too.
Yes.
And there's a few things you can do with this. Well, one, with the Greek philosopher Archilochus said, we don't rise to the level of our potential, we fall to the level of our training. So train. So that when you go on stage, you don't have to think about it. The worst thing we do, especially as singers, is get stuck in our heads and worry about, are we doing this right? Oh, did I hit that note right? Nobody cares. As long as you're on most of the time, they have no clue that you were off. They just thought, oh, wow, that was passionate. That was awesome. And you're up there struggling, and they're like, wow, he's so passionate. You know,
a wrong note played hesitantly is a wrong note. A wrong note played confidently is an interpretation.
Yeah. I like that.
I live by those words.
And I would also say that the idea of coming up with that character, who are you on stage, is very important. I've taught that for the past 30 years of coaching bands too. It's I used to have a book about it, like how to come up with that person. Watch the bands that you like. Take any time, you're going to do that anyway, but take the time to take note of what do you like that they're doing performance-wise. And sometimes that goes into voice too. I mean, you're talking Brendan Urie gives a totally different vocal performance live than he does on the record, because 100%. He's having fun and showing off. I think he's actually bored, but I could be wrong on that. But yeah, he definitely does some vocal acrobatics on stage that aren't on the recording.
Yeah.
So that could be part of it too. But watch the things that they do that you're like, oh, that's cool. I like that. I like the energy they do or they give off when they do that, and take note of it. Try it out on camera and see how it looks. And what you're doing is you're picking these parts. It's exactly how we all learn to sing. We're like, oh, I like how this singer sounds on this and how this singer sounds here. And eventually you're just this big conglomeration of all the singers that you like.
Yep.
You know, you took your favorite parts of them, put them together and made your own voice. That's what you're doing with coming up for who you are on stage and how you perform on stage. To the point that this one, in fact, I mentioned we opened for White Heart earlier. First time I saw them, I didn't like them at all. Until I saw them live. That guy had so much energy. I was like, holy crap. Even on the ballads, looks like he's just about to throw the microphone down and run around the audience. Like he could not be still, but not out of discomfort. He was just a ball of energy. I adapted that. So when we play acoustic sets, and I like to be just as powerful acoustic, and I tested that, by the way. I'm not saying everybody should do this, but I sing with just as much fervor in my voice acoustically as I do when there's a full rock band. I like how that came across and how that connected with people. So sitting on a stool watching remembering this guy in Whiteheart has his legs just kept moving when he was standing singing a ballad. They just kept moving. He couldn't be still. And I took that on. I took on that energy. It's like, I'm in this music. I'm really in it. And I'm capturing the energy of what's going on. And the first time I did that, I remember somebody even mentioned it was me and a guitarist. We're both on stools. And this one guy mentioned after the show, he's like, man, I thought at any moment you were just going to burst out running. So that's awesome. They captured that. They caught that. The audience caught that I was giving off the energy physically of what was happening with the music.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of that character, though. That was part of me saying, I like what this one singer does. Let me try it. Let me see how it goes. I like how this singer is all out belting everything, like really into it with their voice, even when it's softer. Let's see how that goes. That's how I built that character. So I do suggest people spend time doing that. They spend time really thinking about what they like and don't like, try it on, record it. If it doesn't work, do something different. What was that? Bruce Lee talked about that. Talking about Jeet Kune Do. So his style, Jun Fong kickboxing, Jeet Kune Do, like that, the whole philosophy of fighting that he had. Where master it, right? Master the style, keep what works, throw out the rest.
That's really powerful, man.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to that, and because I mean, I have the luxury when it comes to like doing musicals and stuff, like that character's already written for me. But I do agree. I do the same thing with my students, with like telling them to create that character. One of my students is in a he's a bassist in a band, and he got to create his own character. So he wears a scuba suit on stage. It's rad. And I'm like, all right, man. Yeah. And or not a scuba suit, a diver suit. You ever like from the old Scooby Doo?
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Yeah.
Lantern, whatever.
Right. And it helps him, and he has this whole backstory for him written out and everything. But going with my original thought, if you're hearing that and like you're afraid that like, oh, I'm not creative enough to do something like that, we do this every single day unconsciously, because we have the person that we present, we have the person that we give to the public, and then we have the person we are when we're alone. This is just a part of the world. So now it's just doing it with a little bit more intention. We pick and choose the things that we all want to come across in a good way, right? We all want to come across a certain way because those are the things that align with our values. So then create that character based on those values. That's what you do every day. Do it for your show. I don't know. That was
I want to say it too, that there's something to say in that for sure, that this is not becoming somebody you're not. You know, in a musical, sure, there's definitely an element of that. You're taking on a totally different character. But the way you do that too is you're amplifying that part of yourself that fits that role. And you're not becoming someone you aren't. When I'm talking about looking at what you like that other artists are doing, it's usually you connect with that. You really like it because you wish you could express that yourself. So try it. All of this, and I know I'm going to get some flack for this, just for saying this. It's what it means to summon a demon. Summon the demon. So you guys in metal are really going to like that saying. But so summoning a demon isn't about doing some ritual and summoning this extra dimensional being or whatever, that there's extra spiritual being that to do your bidding. That's not the way most people who do that see that. Think of it more from a psychological perspective when I say that. I think Carl Jung or some. I'm not going to go deep into this, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a rabbit trail.
Keep it up. I love it.
Summoning a demon is taking a part of yourself you don't like, bring it to the surface so you can incorporate it into who you actually are rather than hide it all the time.
Yep.
So it's that same idea. There's shadow work when it comes to Carl Jung.
Exactly.
It's that same idea when you're looking at who do I want to become? Well, let me bring that to the surface and try it on for a bit and see how it goes. So the other thing I would say about that too, when it comes to the anxiety that can come with that, and the stage fright that can come with trying on these new things and being vulnerable in front of people, try it in a safe space first.
Yep.
Go to karaoke night where half the people aren't singing on key, if that much.
Right.
And 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 half of them are drunk, probably more than that too. Um, they don't care. They're just enjoying themselves, and it's very safe to make mistakes in front of them.
Right.
Very safe.
Right.
Do it there first.
Yep.
If you're underage and can't do it there, do it with friends. Do it in front of your friends as often as you can. Share it with them. Perform for them. Make an event of it where you're all doing it. Your friends are doing it too, and having a karaoke night at your home, just because it's fun.
Yeah.
But it gives you a chance to try on those things and see how people react, because it's probably not going to be as bad as you have stuck in your head. If it's bad at all, they'll probably really like it because you're finally being you. You're finally bringing these things to the surface that they already respect about you that you usually just hide because you're insecure about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So find a safe space to do it. And there's places online, Drew, I think you nailed it with saying, turn on Facebook Live, turn on YouTube Live. You're not going to have thousands of people showing up that you don't know, or even 10 people showing up that you don't know. You know, you're going to have friends. You're going to have people you're already associated with. They'll be like, hey, they're live. Let me check out what they're doing. It's the same thing as doing it at home with that group of friends. But they don't have to all make an event and come to your house for it. Just turn on the camera. Say, if people show up, great. If they don't, have a recording. Yeah. If they do show up and it's only one or two, that's who I'm performing for.
Yeah.
And it's safe.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, everything we're talking about in regards to get well, other than like the rituals, but like getting better about performing, releasing a lot of that anxiety just comes down to doing it. But the thing is, doing it doesn't mean just doing it in front of a crowd or doing this big full-on performance. Like you said, start with your friends. The more you, or Facebook Live, I also really like that idea, because the more you just do it, the easier it gets. The less uncertainty or the unknowns kind of start to become less threatening.
And if you're not afraid of singing people anymore, great. But do you move around? Are you connecting with them? You may not be afraid yourself, but are you actually connecting with them? That's the next thing to look at. And I would also say within that, I mean, we've given everybody a ton of tools to be able to analyze that. But once you're comfortable being that character, or at least expressing it on stage, look at the songs, look at the set list as a whole, look at the visuals that you put on stage, look at what you're wearing, everybody on stage is wearing. Is that also expressing those things? And when you're looking at the songs, what special moments can you bring forth in that song? You want this part to be special because it opens up huge, or you want this particular song to feel way more special than the others. How do you do that visually? How do you, in a song, do you step forward during a chorus and then step back during the verses? You know, when the whole band does that, it really changes the energy of the song. The visuals, the energy, everything changes with the music. It's really cool. So looking at things like that too. But I think most of what we've talked about today is really just, who do you want to become?
Yeah.
Who do you want to be? And I can say the more I did that on stage, the more it became who I am as well. And I started teaching, and it kind of took it to a whole other level because I had to talk to people all the time. And I had to be more animated when I was on camera for the courses I was recording. Like, I had to do it there too. So when I'm just talking about things and I'm staying perfectly still and not really expressing my emotions on my face or with my hands, or it's kind of weird. They're just getting information. But when I used my hands and started moving around and started using my vocal inflection more and started using facial expressions, and some of them are hilarious when you pause at the wrong time, but but it connects a whole lot more. Those are the things we're talking about. Try on for size. Who do you want to be? How do you want to express? How do you want to connect with the people who are watching or listening to you? Try it in a safe space. Or do what Tim Ferriss talks about and push a comfort zone outside of that. Say, what happens if you're in a busy marketplace, let's say an outdoor marketplace like 16th Street or Pearl Street in Boulder, or I'm sure everybody has their own space in their city. Think of this outdoor marketplace, tons of people. What if you lay down? Just do it. Nobody cares. They'll walk around you. But that little bit of a comfort push there, it gets you out of your shell. It gets you willing to experiment with more.
Yep.
100%.
Anything else that you would like to add about performance and stage fright and all that?
Just do it. Hardest part is starting.
Exactly.
Just do it.
Now remember, if you want a place to discuss this topic further and other topics too, a place where you can improve both your voice and your music career with courses and other cool resources, unlockable resources even, and a community of other rock and metal singers on the same path. We'll support you, encourage you along the way, just a cool community to be with. Then join us at school.com/rock singing success. Now, over my last 30 years as a professional performing musician, music career coach, and rock singing coach, I've helped hundreds of in-person students and thousands of students in my courses. So I created the Rock Singing Success community to offer you even more help on your journey. Again, that's school.com/rock singing success. That's SKOOL.com/rock singing success. Join us there. Let's continue this discussion. See you there.